There comes a moment, often in the stillness of night or the solitude of a quiet morning, when a question begins to echo within. Why do I feel like something is missing? You may have wealth. You may have a loving family. You may have achievements lining your shelves. And yet, something inside remains unfulfilled. This emptiness, this invisible ache, is not a flaw, it is a signal. A whisper from the deepest layers of your being, calling you toward wholeness. As Carl Jung once said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside, awakes. Today I invite you to awaken, not to chase more but to return home, to the self you left behind. Transcend duality, seek meaning not victory. Victory implies conflict. It draws a line between winner and loser, between right and wrong, between strength and weakness. But life in its rawest and most truthful form rarely fits within such clear-cut divisions. The person obsessed with winning often finds themselves trapped in endless cycles of competition, comparison, and insecurity. The ego is nourished, yes, but the soul is left starving. When you chase only victory, you miss the deeper invitation of existence. You become more concerned with being right than being real, more committed to dominating others than understanding yourself. You measure your worth by the outcome, not the experience, and in doing so, you reduce the richness of life to a scoreboard. But meaning exists beyond the binary. It lives in the quiet places, in the moments of surrender, of paradox, of painful growth. Meaning arises when we integrate the opposites within us: light and shadow, courage and fear, love and loss. It comes not when we conquer, but when we reconcile, not when we stand above others, but when we unite with ourselves. To transcend duality is to stop asking, "Did I win?" and start asking, "What did I learn? What did this reveal about me? Where is life trying to take me?" It is a shift from striving to be better than others, to seeking to understand what it means to be fully human. Victory is fleeting, meaning is eternal. So if you find yourself tired of the chase, tired of the endless need to prove, to achieve, to dominate, take it as a sign that your soul no longer wants to win. It wants to wake up, it wants to transcend the fight entirely, and remember that life is not a battlefield. It is a journey toward wholeness. When you let go of the need to win, you begin to discover the deeper truths hidden in your failures, your struggles, and even your contradictions. You begin to see the divine in the very things you once rejected. And in that moment you are no longer fighting, you are finally free. The parts of yourself you reject, the impulses you deny, the thoughts you bury, the emotions you label as bad, do not disappear. They retreat into the unconscious, becoming what Carl Jung called the shadow. But this shadow is not your enemy. It is not the monster you've been taught to fear. It is, in truth, a hidden source of power, insight, and transformation. We are taught to show only our brightest sides to the world, to be polite, composed, strong, and agreeable. And in doing so, we begin to divide ourselves. We cast away our vulnerability, our anger, our jealousy, our ambition, and even our untapped creativity into the dark. But those rejected fragments do not die. They become dormant forces shaping our behaviors from beneath the surface, through projection, sabotage, addiction, and anxiety. The irony is, what we most need to become whole often lies in what we most resist within ourselves. The very qualities we've exiled could be the missing keys to our vitality and authenticity. Your shadow contains all the parts of you that were once judged as unacceptable by family, society, or culture. But what if those parts weren't bad, just misunderstood? What if within your shadow lies the buried voice of your true self, silenced before it could fully speak? To explore the shadow is not to glorify darkness. It is to bring light to it. It is to recognize that healing doesn't come from pretending the dark doesn't exist, but from facing it with courage and curiosity. This is the essence of inner work, not to destroy the shadow, but to integrate it, to listen to its messages, to ask, what are you trying to tell me? What have I not yet accepted about who I am? Every emotion you repress holds a story. Every behavior you hide has a root. And every judgment you place on others often reflects a part of yourself you've yet to embrace. When you begin to make peace with your shadow, you reclaim what was once lost: your strength, your truth, your wholeness. You stop being ruled by unconscious patterns and start living in conscious alignment with your full being. You no longer need to project blame outward because you understand the war was always inside. And now, you are choosing peace. Facing your shadow is not weakness. It is one of the most courageous acts of the human spirit. It means choosing depth over surface, honesty over performance, and integration over illusion. And in doing so, you begin the real journey, not toward perfection but toward something far more sacred: wholeness. No one hands you purpose. No voice from the sky arrives with clear instructions. No perfect map falls into your lap. And yet so many of us wait for a sign, for clarity, for someone to show us who we are and why we are here. But meaning does not arrive like a gift. It must be created, earned, and uncovered through the raw and often painful process of living deeply and consciously. We are born into a world that tries to define us before we even know ourselves. We are told what success means, what happiness looks like, what we should pursue and we should avoid. And so, we chase dreams that are not truly ours. We wear identities that were handed to us, not chosen. We follow paths that feel hollow, because they were never built from the inside out. Eventually, this leads to a quiet crisis, not always dramatic but deep, a sense of restlessness, an inner discontent, a whisper that says, there must be more than this. And that whisper is right. But the more we seek isn't found in external achievements or surface-level validation. It's found when we begin to take responsibility for our inner world. When we ask not, what does the world want from me? But, what does my soul long to become? That is where the real journey begins. Meaning is not passive. It does not float down from heaven or get delivered through applause. It is something you carve out of your own experience, especially your pain, especially your confusion, especially your questions. The struggles you face are not in the way of meaning. They are the way. Your heartbreaks, your failures, your doubts, all contain the raw material from which purpose is forged. The deeper you go into your story, the more you realize the events of your life were never random. They were shaping you, not punishing you, but preparing you. You create meaning when you stop running from your story and start rewriting it. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and begin to see yourself as an active participant in the unfolding of your own destiny. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But in that acceptance, something miraculous happens. You begin to see how every fragment of your life, light and dark, contributes to a deeper truth. You begin to live not from the outside in, but from the inside out. So if you're still searching for meaning, stop looking for it like it's hiding somewhere out there. Look within. Ask what your wounds have taught you, what your longings are asking of you, what your fears are protecting. You are the alchemist, your life is the material, and meaning is the gold you forge from it all. Success, as defined by the world, often revolves around status, titles, achievements, wealth, and image. It rewards productivity, conformity, and outward accomplishment. But what if you succeed in every visible way and still feel empty inside? What if, after climbing the ladder, you discover it was leaning against the wrong wall? Individuation, in contrast, is not about external validation. It is the deep, inward journey toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. It is the unfolding of the true self, the one that existed before the masks, before the conditioning, before the world told you who to be. To individuate is to listen closely to the quiet, insistent voice within that says, there's more to me than this. It is the sacred process of uncovering your unique path, your personal truth, and the totality of your psyche, including your shadow, your wounds, and your hidden gifts. The modern world idolizes success. It rarely encourages wholeness. But wholeness is what your soul longs for. Not just to do great things but to become something real. Not just to achieve but to evolve. Not just to win the world, but to come home to yourself. Carl Jung taught that individuation is the integration of all aspects of the self, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, rational and instinctual. It is not a path for the faint of heart. It requires the courage to question everything you've been taught about who you are. It asks you to dismantle the persona, the social mask you wear, and discover what lies beneath. It demands honesty, self-confrontation, a willingness to walk alone at times. But the reward is beyond anything success alone can offer: the peace of inner alignment, the power of authenticity, and the joy of living a life that is unmistakably your own. Individuation doesn't reject success. It redefines it. Success in its higher form is when your outer life reflects your inner truth. When your work, your relationships, and your choices are expressions of your deepest values and most honest self. That is the kind of success that doesn't fade or fracture. That is the kind of life that nourishes the soul. If you're feeling disoriented, disillusioned, or disconnected, it may not be because you're failing. It may be because your soul is ready for something deeper. The call to individuation is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is the foundation of a meaningful life. You were not born to merely perform. You were born to transform. And when you begin that journey, when you answer the call to individuation, you stop striving to become someone you're not, and start remembering who you've always been. The heaviness you carry, the confusion that clouds your mind, the emptiness that lingers beneath your routines. These are not signs of failure. They are not dead ends. They are the early rumblings of something ancient and necessary within you beginning to awaken. What you are feeling is not your collapse. It is your threshold. So often we are taught to view discomfort, sadness, or spiritual restlessness as problems to be solved or symptoms to be suppressed. But the soul speaks in the language of unease. It shakes us awake when we've gone too long pretending. It stirs us when we've wandered too far from our essence. And though it may feel like your world is unraveling, in truth, it is your false world that is falling apart, so that something more real can emerge. This moment, this ache, this longing, this sense that you can't keep living the way you have, is not the end of your story. It is the first page of a new chapter. And though beginnings are often disguised as endings, those who are brave enough to stay with their discomfort eventually realize the breakdown was the breakthrough. You are not being punished. You are being invited, called inward, summoned by your deeper self to return to your path. Perhaps for the first time, the pain you feel is not meaningless. It is meaningful in the most sacred way. It means you are ready to confront the illusions, the compromises, and the masks that no longer serve you. Carl Jung taught that there is no coming to consciousness without pain. That is because becoming fully alive means seeing what you were once blind to. It means reckoning with the shadow, dismantling the persona, and embracing the truths you once avoided. It is a raw and vulnerable process, but it is also the most important journey you will ever take. This feeling, the one you can't quite name, the one that keeps you awake at night, is trying to tell you something. It's saying there's more. More to you, more to your life, more to your purpose than what you've allowed yourself to see. But you must listen. And you must trust that the discomfort is not your destruction. It is your direction. It is your soul's way of redirecting you toward what matters. So instead of trying to numb it, avoid it, or fix it, sit with it. Honor it, let it speak. Because in that quiet, vulnerable space, something powerful begins to happen. You begin to feel a flicker of truth, a glimmer of clarity, a stirring of something ancient within you that says, this is not where it ends. This is where I begin. And when you accept that, when you embrace the feeling instead of resisting it, you step into the sacred process of transformation. You begin to shape a life that is no longer built on fear or performance, but on truth, courage, and authenticity. This feeling, yes, this very feeling is the signpost. It is not the closing of a door. It is the turning of the key. So if you feel that something is missing, know this, it's not a sign of failure. It's the start of your greatest transformation. The soul doesn't shout, it whispers. And right now, it is whispering to you, come home. Become whole.